Hello there and welcome to another video from Change Tips and Tools. And yes, it's me, Phil, the Brummie that hails from Birmingham, England. And today I'm going to do a shortish video. It's not part of any training series, but I want to show you how to build complex formulas and show you how I go through that mind mapping process. So the example I'm going to use today is I want to extract the file name from my Excel file, and I also want to get the sheet name as well dynamically. And I'm going to show you how I would build that formula using many different functions and bring them together. So let's do this. Now, first of all, I'm going to do some steps here, so let's just give this steps. So the first thing that I'm going to try and achieve here is, and I'm going to try and show you each step of the way and my thought process. So the first thing I need to get, and this is going to be the calculation column, and here I'm going to show you the formula as I do it. Right, so let's go with I want to get the file name. Now, the first thing you need to do is make sure that you've got this file, your Excel file, saved, because this first step won't work otherwise. So I'm going to call this Excel file, and I'm going to use the cell function. So if I'm going to do equals cell, and you've got all these various different things where you can bring up information on the cell. So, and I'm going to choose file name. So I'm going to select that and I'm going to close that bracket. I don't need the reference because this will work on any cell. So I'm going to close the bracket, and that's now brought me the full file name. And you can see there in the square brackets, between the square brackets is the file name. And also at the end, you can see I've got the sheet name, which is Change, the first part of Change Tips and Tools. So now what I need to do to extract that file name is I need to find my first start point. So I'm going to call this first start. And I'm going to use the find function to find where this bracket is in this text. So I'm going to do equals find the text I want to find. So I'm going to do open quotation mark, the open square bracket, close that quotation mark. That's what I want to find, and I want to find it within this text here. If I close that bracket and hit return, so that is where it's finding it, like so. I then want my first length, so first length, I'm going to call this, because then I need to find the length of this text here. So I'm going to use the length function of that text, and then I'm going to hit return. So that's telling me that text is 64. I'm then going to do my first extract here. So my first extract is I'm going to use the mid function to do equals mid, and I'm going to do it from this text here. Yeah, and then what I want to do, my start number is going to be this number here, and I'm going to do +1 because I don't want to include that, so I'm going to do +1, and the number of characters is going to be this first length here, and I'm going to close the bracket on that, and there we go. So I've got the first part of this extract. Okay, so now I've got that, I now need to find where this square bracket is, and I want to get rid of everything after it, don't I? So if I then go my end, I'm going to call it, I'm going to use the find function again, find, and this time I'm going to find that closed square bracket. I'm going to find it in this text here. I'm going to close it. So it's 32. Right, so my file name then, and the way that I get my file name in the end is going to be equal left. So to the left from this text here, and the number of characters is going to be my end -1, because I don't want to include that. And if I close that bracket and hit return, that's how I've built my file name. Now, the way that I can display, and the little trick that you can do here as far as displaying the formulas, and I do it a lot in my shorts, is if you use the formula text function, I reference that cell, it'll then give me that formula that I've put in here. And if I copy that down, you can see all those formulas there. Now, to get my sheet name, the way that I do that, and then once I've done that, and then show you how you can combine all these things into one formula, because obviously you don't want all these formulas just to get that particular result. So if I then do, again, I want my Excel file, so let's call it Excel file step. Again, it's going to be equal cell, file name. If I close that bracket, what I want to find now is I just need to find this here. So again, I want to find my first start. I'm just going to call this my start. Yeah. And if I do that, this is going to be equals find, open bracket, and the text I'm trying to find is that closed square bracket. And I'm trying to find it in this particular piece of text. And if I then close that bracket and hit return, then if I then get the length, so I want my length, I'm going to call it my length on this one. And again, that's going to be equals the length of this text. Close that bracket. And those are the only pieces of information that I need to, in fact, I'm going to rename these here because I've only got my start, I've got my length there, I've then got first section, my name, and then the file name. Right, so that works. I've then got my length is there. So then to get the sheet name, the actual formula here is going to be equals mid again. And it's going to be that text there. My start point is going to be my start plus 1. And number of characters is going to be the length. Close that bracket. And I've got the sheet name. So if I just take that and do control copy, control paste there, and then drag that down. So those are the formulas where I've got my file name, and that's how I've got my file name from this Excel file. And here you can see I've got the name here as far as my sheet name. Now, how do I combine all that into one formula, and how do I combine all that into one formula? Trying to combine all this and then repeating some of the formulas within a formula and getting that really nested complex formula can be a bit of a nightmare. So let me show you how, based on having worked that out, how to get the file name and the sheet name here, is in how do I combine them into one formula. So let's do the sheet name first. So that's going to be the easiest one as far as the principle is concerned. So if I go sheet name, and the formula, I'm going to use the let function. So the let function enables you to create variables within that formula and then to do an actual formula with using those variables. So you're only having to put them in once. Let me show you. So if I go let, open bracket, and what I'm going to do, because to make this easier, I'm going to do Alt and enter or return, and that's going to give me a new line. So let's do my first variable, which is going to be the Excel file. So let's call it Excel file, like so. So there you can see my first name, and I'm going to go comma, and the value is going to be the cell function using that file name there, and then I close that bracket and do comma. I'm then going to do Alt return to go to the next lines, which helps me just break this down visually. And the next thing I want to get is my start. So my start, comma, and the formula is going to be this find function. So I'm going to do find, open bracket, and I'm going to do quotation marks. So the square bracket is what I want to find. But this time, instead of referencing a cell, I'm going to reference that first variable, that first name that I've created, which is going to be Excel. And you can see it appears there, and I'm going to select it. And that's what I'm going to first do, is find that. And then I'm going to do +1, because I want to skip it, not equals, +1, like so, and do comma. I'm then going to do Alt return. So I've got my Excel file, I've got my start, so the next thing I want is my length. So let's do that, my length, so I'm calling it, and I'm going to do comma, and I just want the length, open bracket, and obviously it's going to be the length of this Excel file variable. So again, just select it, and then I'm going to close that bracket, do comma, and then do Alt return for a new line. So now I've done that, I'm now ready to get the sheet name, which is going to be the calculation, and the calculation is mid. The text is going to be the Excel file. My start number is going to be my start. The number of characters is going to be my length. I close the bracket on that mid function, and then I close the bracket on the let function and hit return, and hopefully I've achieved the same result as those 4 steps. And that is now dynamic. I mean, if I take that and do Control copy, and I go to, for example, here and do, let's do sheet name. Yeah. And I do Control, if I take this formula, Control copy, and I paste it there, Control V, it's now picking up tips. If I do the same here, Control V, it's picking up, and if I do here, it's picking up tools. And if I change the name of that, boom, it's dynamic, it's picking that formula up. So now let's do the same principle, but with this slightly longer. So that's why it's great to work it out, the steps, and use this FORMULATEXT function to break the formula down. So again, let's do our file name now. Again, I'm going to use the let function, so equals let, with the open bracket. I'm going to do Alt return, or Alt enter key together to get a new line within that cell. So let's just start it again. So let's do our first step is we want the Excel file, which is going to be that formula. So if I do call Excel file, like so, do comma, and then the actual value is going to be cell, and I want the file name. I'm going to close that bracket and do a comma. I'm going to do Alt return. The next thing is I want my start here. So, and my start is going to be my start. I'm going to do comma, and that's going to be this find here. So let's just do it as is there. So I do find, open bracket, and obviously what I want to find is that first open bracket. So I'm going to do quotation mark, open square bracket, close that quotation mark. It's going to be from my Excel file, like so. And I'm going to close that bracket and do comma and do Alt return. So that's my start done. I then want my length. So I do my length, call it, as I've done there, and do comma. And I'm going to use the length function. And again, so instead of doing B2 there, I'm going to do Excel file. Select it from the drop down. I'm going to close that bracket and do comma. I'm going to do Alt return. Then as far as my first extract, it's the mid function. So I'm going to call this my first extract, like so, and do comma. And then I'm going to repeat this formula, but just replacing the cell references with these variables. So if I do mid, open bracket, so the text is going to be Excel file. The start number is going to be my start. But remember, it's +1, so I'm going to do +1. And then the number of characters is going to be my length. Select my length there. And then I'm going to close that bracket. I'm going to do comma, and I'm going to do Alt return. I then want to do my end calculation. So my end, I'm going to do comma, and it's going to be, instead of this B5, it's going to be my first extract. So I'm going to do find, open bracket, and obviously I'm finding the end now, the end close bracket. So I'm going to do that. Just find that from that first extract, like so. And I'm going to do close bracket. I'm then going to do comma. And I'm now ready. I'm going to do Alt return to do the file name here, which is going to be this function here, which is going to be left, open bracket. The text here is going to be this file first extract. So I'm going to do first extract. The number of characters is going to be this my end, but -1. So if I do, and I do my end, right, and I do -1, and I do, so that's on the left, and then I do -1 on the left, and do return. So that left, so I got it, and I've basically taken those steps. If I do F2 to go into edit mode in the cell, I've taken those steps and I've just repeated them, and using that Alt return has enabled me to really visualize that formula in a much easier way by using that Alt return key to create new lines and assign value to each of those variables in that let function is one to remember. The Alt return key, remember it when building complex formulas in the future. And again, now that formula there, if I do Control copy, and I paste it anywhere in here. So again, if I just paste it there and Control V, it's all dynamic. And if I was to save this file as a new file name, then this would dynamically change. So I have shown you how to mind map really complex formulas to get a result, and then I've shown you how to combine all those formulas using the let function, and hopefully that's give you some ideas how to approach really complex formulas in the future with your own spreadsheets. And if you found that useful, please remember to click that like, subscribe, and smash that notifications button for future content. And if you want to see more videos like this, please let me know in the comments. And as always, I wish you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Please take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video from Change, Tips and Tools. Bye bye now.